Welcome, Jeff and Marion Gunton. It's great to have you with us for our service and to share about your work and what's happening for you at the moment. For the sake of people who may have joined the church since you were last with us, or for others who might be forgetful, could you give us a quick introduction to yourselves and your ministry?
Well, we are Marion and Jeff Gunton, and we have two children, Michael and Sagana. They are 21 and 20. We have been missionaries of the church for more than 30 years. And at the moment, we are working with Pioneers and World Outreach. So that's a partnership so that we can focus on Simply Mobilising.
And could you tell us what Simply Mobilising means?
Simply Mobilising is a organisation that seeks to really, they've got different tools that seek to mobilise the church to be on mission with God. And Jeff is taking on a new role as I've got to get it right, the Global Development Coordinator. And he'll be overseeing the regions, the 12 regions of the world for Simply Mobilising.
This is stimulating missions, not just in the Western world, but in all kinds of countries where the church is growing and established. Would that be right?
Yes, that's right.
Great. Yep. So if you're meant to be in the Philippines, how has COVID-19 impacted your ministry? And you think God working through it in any way, any positive way as well?
Yep. So we actually went to the Philippines beginning of March, and instead of having a month there, having a transition period, we had to evacuate quite unexpectedly. And so after just over a week, we came back to Brisbane. We were fortunate that we were able to get our flights changed and get home, and we got home just in time to start the quarantine, the compulsory 14-day quarantine. And and so then while we were doing that, everything virtually changed, and most of Australia is now completely quarantined. So that's been quite an impact. It's meant that for me to move forward, I'm expecting to take on the full ambit of the role by the end of this month. And for that to happen, there's going to be a lot of Zoom and Skype calls in between now and the end of the month. So, but on a positive note, it's been exciting to see the way that our teams in different countries are embracing this as a new opportunity for exploring how to deliver courses, how to provide that personal component that we really value, the input of trainers, the input of our facilitators, helping people journey. How do we make that a reality on a online environment? And so now we've got quite a number of countries that are really embracing that and experimenting and giving feedback to Simply Mobilising.
Okay, a lot of courses I imagine have not been able to go ahead, but a number. Has there been any expansion with the new technology?
So basically, there's been a number of courses that were partway through when restrictions were put into place, and they've had to. All of those courses have had to. Those teams have had to find ways of finishing the course that they had started, and then there's been the flow on other courses that have been scheduled where in order to make them a possibility, teams have embraced things like Zoom and running with courses, and it's growing momentum, but it's opening the door because in terms of people no longer having to be limited or restricted to actually being able to get to one central location. So that's been that is a positive, but it is growing, and it's the teams in every country that's experimenting and trying to work out what's the best in their context.
And your role is an oversight role, and this is part of what you'd be keeping a handle on and guiding and helping with it, especially at the moment. Yeah.
Yep. So there were plans to eventually have some of our courses and training online, but this is really accelerated
Yes.
that development.
Okay. Well, there's another aspect to our interview today, fitting in with the theme of our service, because we're thinking about missions this month, of course, in May, but we realise that mission starts locally before it goes out globally. And wondering if you can share with us something about your own experience of grappling with how to share your faith and the message of Jesus with those around you. I realise in your case, Jeff, you do a lot of travelling, so perhaps you've had opportunities to share in your travels.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I get a lot of opportunities to travel, and a lot of opportunities to talk to the person next to me. There's some instances where I start a conversation with the person next to me, and it's obvious they don't want to converse. But there's other times where we get into quite a good conversation. Sometimes we talk about spiritual things. Often, whenever they ask me what do I do, and I say I work with church leaders, that often will open up doors.
Is there any one that might stand out that you?
Yeah, I think of one particular flight, and in the providence of God, I was sitting next to an atheist, and I was reading a book called The Atheist Fatal Flaw, and so I'd actually been reading it and quite engrossed to it when the guy came and sit next to me, and it was probably not until we'd taken off and into the flight that we started the conversation, and he said, "Oh, I noticed that you're reading the book," and he just asked me about it. So I was far enough through to actually start talking to him, so that was just a divine appointment at being in the right place at the right time, and just being able to just help him journey. And the questions that he responded, just that it was just great that this book was fresh in my mind. I was able to just dialogue, talk through that sort of stuff. So yeah, it was a great encounter.
I realise that we often just play each of us a part in contributing to somebody coming to the Lord or sharing with them, and sometimes it's rejected, sometimes it's accepted. Have you ever had the opportunity where you've been able to share with someone right to the point where they've come to faith, and you know, with their difficulties, was it joyful? How did it
Yep. No, my best Papua New Guinean friend, he came. I had the opportunity of being able to journey with him, to lead him to the Lord, and then to not only that, but to disciple him and actually become a really good friend and just grown our relationship. So we still keep in contact, even though I haven't been to Papua New Guinea since 2003. We still have contact, and he's a church leader in his church, and just a wonderful evangelist and making a difference.
Right. In the last minute, how can we most effectively continue to support you?
Well, I would say your prayers are really just very vital. If you could pray for Jeff in these days of preparing to take over in his new role, and these many Zoom and Skype calls that he's going to have with the leaders back in the Philippines, and all that involves. I don't even understand all that it involves at the moment, but we'd appreciate your prayers for that adjusting, for the kids and I as well, and how that affects us. Pray for Michael. He's trying to do his studies online, and I don't think he finds it as easy as going into the uni. So I know he'd appreciate prayer. what else?
Well, that's about our time.
Okay.
You'll be sharing, we trust, in our experimental meeting this evening. So if anybody has any extra questions for you, that'll be a great opportunity. But thank you very, very much for sharing with us right now. And we look forward to seeing you live on Sunday evening. Bye for now.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks,
Bye.
Lindsay.